Hey, welcome to Mineral Talks Live, the weekly live webinar that brings you in-depth and in-person interviews with the mineral people from around the world. Mineral Talks Live is brought to you by a joint effort among the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, and Blue Cap Productions. Tune in every Wednesday and stay connected to your mineral world. Now, broadcasting live from beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii, the land of aloha, ukuleles, and shakas, this is Mineral Talks Live. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone watching out there. Today is Wednesday, April 28th, 2021, and that makes today the last Wednesday of April. We're glad that you could join us today on our 45th episode of Mineral Talks Live. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, Mineral Talks Live is the weekly mineral talk show broadcasting to you live every Wednesday. I'm Brian Swoboda, the president of Blue Cap Productions, and together with my awe-inspiring partners, Dr. Raquel Alonso Perez from the Mineralogical and Geological Museum at Harvard University, and Dr. Eloise Gaillou from the Society of Mineral Museum Professionals, also known as the SMMP, we want to welcome you to the show. Our goal in producing this program has always been to focus on bringing together all the different facets of our mineral world, from curatrix and curators to collectors, dealers, miners, researchers, artists, and the media that serves us all. We hope that in doing so, we show our audience how our little world is really so diverse. As an audience, we invite you to participate and interact with us and each other throughout this live show. In the end, we do this for you, so think of this more as an interactive show versus a show where you just sit and watch. Not that there's anything wrong with sitting and watching, but if you really want to get involved, you can, and there are two ways in which you can do this. Both of these ways are located at the bottom of the screen in the form of buttons you'll see in your Zoom interface. The chat feature allows you to type messages to everyone watching and participating in the show. So when you first sign on, feel free to fire off a chat message to everyone telling us where you're from. If you have thoughts or comments during the show, this is where you can post them. During the interview, my guest and I may not see all of your chat messages, but both Raquel and Eloise will be very active in those chats, so look for their comments and links. When appropriate, either Raquel or Eloise may address us directly with some of your questions. Now, the second way to interact is with the Q&A function. This allows you to submit general questions that we'll try to answer at the very end of the interview. Finally, at about 40 minutes into the program, you'll see a window pop up on the screen asking a bunch of questions for our weekly poll. This is one of our favorite parts of the show, as it allows us to learn small, random, and oftentimes interesting little facts about our guests. Today, our guest is someone I'm really happy to have on the show. You can say that he was born into this industry, as an appreciation for Earth's treasures was in his blood. And while he's a little bit more on the gemstone side of our world, what some mineral people jokingly refer to as the dark side, he's also a passionate mineral collector, something not everyone knows. And so we thought it would be fantastic to have on today's show someone who has found the perfect balance between the light side and the dark side, our very own Luke Skywalker, if you will. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show my friend Edward Boehm. Hi, Edward. How are you doing today, buddy?
All right. Thank you for that great introduction. Star Wars was definitely one of my favorite movies, so that's quite an honor.
Oh, well, fantastic, Luke. Show us the way.
That's awesome. Thank you. Well, I'm going to...
Edward, tell us where you are right now, other than at your home in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Tell us what we're looking at.
This is my gallery here, which has all sorts of different mineral specimens, and I think we try to feature different things when we have people over, to have them be able to touch, like this. This is a black schorl and quartz granite piece here, which is our bar. Great. Always good to have when you have a group of people over. And this is one of my favorite pieces here. This is a piece of petrified wood, which you can see is mostly white.
Oh, that's a fantastic piece. Where's that from? Is that Chinese or is that domestic?
No, this is Arizona.
Arizona. Wonderful.
Yeah. And it has little amethyst crystals here. You can see that formed in some of the vug. So that's kind of cool. Great. I love that piece. And then just the gallery in general here, if we have people over, just to try and educate them on different gem materials, which include, transparent gem crystals, but also ornamental materials like lapis. Here you see some other pieces here, and tourmaline. I particularly love this little tourmaline carved bear on a ruby and zoisite base.
Is that gold bamboo shoot that's coming up there? Yeah.
Silver, actually.
Silver, okay.
There's gold in the base. Yeah. And this piece here is a rutilated quartz piece that Johnson Kankis actually faceted it from the base of a big crystal. Nice. You can see the rutilated stars in there. That's one of my.
I love that it's faceted on one side, and I love that it was Kankis who did that.
Yeah. I became friendly with him. When I was working for Pala International before he passed away, and I got to spend a lot of time with him in his house. And then he started.
The Kankis Symposium is actually still going on now till early June. So people who haven't signed up for that, it's still not too late. Wonderful, man.
And here we have all sorts of different things like charoite, which is really rare. And here you've got dioptase and malachite, and also mossitsit, which is one of my favorite ornamental gem materials from Burma. And of course, that's a jade bangle. And then we have up here some different, that's a calcite from Russia. This is azure malachite from Arizona. This is one of my favorite pieces here, obviously from Tennessee, from the Elmwood mine. Absolutely. And the painting on the back by Gamini Ratnavira, who used to be down with Pala in that little side building. He's an amazing gem and mineral artist.
He is considered a national treasure to the country of Sri Lanka, and he's still in the Fallbrook area doing his wildlife paintings. Incredible artist and great person.
He is a great guy. And he can paint the birds, minerals, gems. It's incredible. This is a rose quartz from Brazil. And of course, we got to have amethyst. That's an emerald piece, a very unusual emerald specimen.
Where's that emerald from?
That's from Colombia.
Colombia, okay.
Yeah. And here we have some amethyst carved owls. And
nice.
Anyway, it's just kind of fun. This is a piece of quartz from a Japan law twin that I found in Peñas Blancas in Colombia at the famous emerald mine near Peñas Blancas.
And I love that you have barnacles in the foreground there.
Yeah. Isn't that fun? We throw everything in.
Oh, it's terrific.
Got pictures of mine.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I mean, it's really a celebration of Earth's treasures.
Yeah, exactly.
Natural treasures.
We have everything. Here's a apophyllite right there too. Beautiful apophyllite. And then just pictures of different mining areas, more of some artwork for my daughters right there. And then some art from Burma. There's some beautiful pieces.
Now, and this I'm sensing kind of a theme here that a lot of this seems to be places that you've personally traveled.
Yes.
So it's kind of it's a educational display for your guests, but it's also a memoriam for yourself for where you've been.
Yeah, for me, it's inspirational. When I come into the office, all these things are, around me all the time, and they're from all my different travels. And so it gives a lot of kind of, I don't know, enthusiasm when I come into the office. I love being here. So here's some of my.
I love the exposed brick. That's fantastic. I love that look. That is so cool.
Yeah. This is an old warehouse, and these are north-facing windows. So we have these giant north-facing windows, which is great for looking at gems and minerals. And then this is just a quick perusal. Most of these minerals are minerals I've either collected myself at different mines or I've purchased over the years. These are some of the gold, silver, pyrite, copper. It's a really great copper piece there. And down here, you've got some tourmalines from different places, Namibia, California, the mushrooms from Mogok, Burma.
Yeah, classic. Yep.
Classic aqua from Namibia on Shoral. Here's one on Shoral. Most of these are self-collected. Down here we've got lapis, azure malachite, and of course mossitsit, which is my all-time favorite ornamental gem. There's a great piece right there that could easily be cut into a huge tab.
Yeah, I remember seeing that lizard that Petrographic had carved out of that same material. I think he did that for Bill.
For Bill,
and,
yeah.
Speaking of Dreher, you need a Dreher piece in your collection. Come on, Edward.
You're right, I do. You've been trying to talk me into one. These are just all different fun things. Nothing that's going to jump out at you. I mean, that's a pretty good scheelite right there. These are some fun fluorites. Obviously, the English fluorite with a cut stone to go with it. I like to collect rough and cut. So you're going to see a lot of pieces that have a cut stone going with the mineral specimen later in the show here. These are all topazes up here. Nice different colors from all over the world. Quartz.
Edward, I always say that there are great stories behind all the minerals, and just looking at the way that you arrange this and what you have in there are a million stories that we are not getting into right now, but I'm sure I can pick any piece out of there and I can say, all right, tell me the story behind this. And I've got a 10, 15-minute story there.
Exactly. That's true. Yep. That's true. Just to see topaz and matrix is quite rare, particularly if it's from Oro Preto. So these two are from Oro Preto.
Yeah,
that's actually that's a Pakistani piece. Most of these are Burma, right here. And then here,
the Oro Preto is the classic locality for that Imperial Topaz, and you got the color just smack on.
Exactly. This is one of my very first pieces I've ever got, and from any mineral specimen. This is from Switzerland. My grandfather used to take me up in the Alps, and we'd go for long walks, and he would teach me about the geology of the area and the Alps, and that's kind of what got me interested in geology, and then ultimately gemology as well.
All right, let me scratch off question number 2 there.
Cool.
That's perfect, though, because I was going to ask you. Let's go back to that quartz for a second. Sure. Tell me a little bit more about that particular piece. You say it was one of the first ones you got, and for those who don't know, Edward's grandfather was Edward Güblin, who is just legendary in the gem and research world. So tell us about that piece, and then a little bit later we'll have you talk a little bit more about your grandfather.
Well, this was a piece that was actually, and we were on a long hike going over the St. Gotthard, and when you get to the top, there's a museum at the top, and at the time, and I don't think they do it anymore, but in those days, you could actually purchase mineral specimens that were found in the various clefts in that area, and that's where this is from. Yeah, I have others that are not nearly as impressive that I personally found, but
so you saw that and somehow it resonated with you. What was it about it that captured your imagination? Do you recall?
It reminded me of New York City, which is where I was born. And that was the first thing I thought of. And I just thought, wow, it's amazing. Nature could create something so incredibly spectacular, that you could hold in your hand and you could imagine, some kind of city somewhere in the world. And that's kind of what really drew me to that piece.
Okay, so you were born in New York City, and where were you living in America at the time? Because you would spend your summers with your grandfather, correct?
Yes. After I was born, we moved to Switzerland. And I stayed there pretty much the whole time until I was in second grade. So Swiss German was my first language, and that's how we got a really close bond at that point. And then I would go back almost every summer and spend it with my grandparents and with him.
Wonderful. I could hear the emotions behind the description there. It sounds like that was a wonderful time.
Oh my God, it was awesome. He was such a great mentor and so patient, because he had to be patient with me. I had lots of questions, and
But why?
Yeah, exactly. There's just some more quartzes and emeralds from all over the world, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Colombia. This one is particularly interesting because it has a little pargasite crystal right at the top. Parasite crystal right there at the top. That little golden colored one that's kind of like a nail going into the emerald. Here's a really nice little gemmy one. That's from Pangus Blancus. Same area. It was a big calcite. Don't remember how big, but that was cut by Mike Gray.
Oh, great cutter.
Yeah.
So that's Buzz Gray's son. Buzz was a very famous guy in the mineral world. Talk to me about that arrowhead. Is that an obsidian arrowhead?
Wow, you picked it out pretty good. That is an obsidian arrowhead. Yep. And
where's that from?
That is from North Georgia.
North Georgia.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And any idea on the age of that?
I don't. I collected arrowheads as a kid, and I got that when I was probably, 14, 15 years old, before I really knew that should be writing down all the information on it.
I love that it's still in your collection.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything practically. My things are not for sale really. And then here I just have, the last one has all sorts of, I pulled out a bunch of stuff. So the things you're going to see in a minute are some of them from here. But these are all Spinels here. And then garnets over here. Ruby. I know it looks weird to have a boar's tusk, but that's from northern Burma, from the head hunting tribe folk there. So if you wear that, that's supposed to protect you from them cutting your head off.
And I understand that you personally killed that boar with a Swiss Army knife because you're from Switzerland. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep. I always have my Swiss Army knife handy. Yep. That's a good story. Oh my gosh. And in the back is a picture of my grandfather on one of his trips to Burma. I think this one was in the 1960s, where he's actually buying ruby rough. So that's kind of a cool shot right there. Okay.
Man, that is like, that photo could be in one of the classic old time books on Burma. That's an incredible photo.
Yeah. It is in one that he and my mom did together.
Wait, go back to the top shelf. Tell me about the rendering, the painting that you have there of the jewelry. Who did that? Oh, I'm sorry, middle shelf.
Oh, this one. Yeah. That's actually from the cover of Gems and Gemology.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a painting. Great. Okay.
No, that's one of the articles that I wrote on when we discovered that Mali, the garnets coming from Mali were actually a new variety of garnet that's now recognized as a grossular androdite. So they came out initially looking like this, where you didn't even know that it could be anything gemmy. But on the inside, they had these little nodules you could break away, and they were actually quite clean. And some of them, most of the material was this kind of color here, like that light brownish green or yellowish green. But some of them were as dark as these that look like top, Demantoid Garnet or Tsavorite Garnet. So it became pretty interesting to people because there was a huge amount of material that came out at that time, and then it just stopped. So that was this is from 1996, I think, volume 31 from 1996. It's like anything else. You find a lot of it at the beginning and then it just disappears, and we haven't seen hardly anything since.
Wow. Yeah. Edward, I have to say, you are a true collector. I mean, that is the office of a true collector. It doesn't matter the quality. It
doesn't matter the quality.
It's the stories. It's fascinating. Wonderful.
Here's a fun piece of amber. All sorts of bugs in it.
Oh, and then nice. That's from Miramar?
No, that is from the Dominican Republic. I don't have any big ones from
the Dominican Republic? Wow.
Yeah. And then here's a diamond in matrix. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there. So this is a conglomerate, and that's a diamond crystal that got embedded in this conglomerate, and then it hardened. So that's kind of unusual.
I'm getting a message from Eloise that if you need to donate that, the parents will accept it.
Yeah, she recognizes it as something that's pretty unique. Not many people have.
I would take it.
This is a carborundum board and a dot that is from Burma. that's from an ox horn. So it's because it's very hard, and they can then drill a hole through it. This is the dot that you would put the gemstone on, and then you stick it on here. And then, of course, depending on the angle, you can do the cutting based on that. And they just rub this back and forth. And it goes from one grit board to another grit board to another. And so it's like a factory where you might have 20 people, and they all are doing the one facet with a different, or a set of facets with a different grit to get the polish that you want. So that's kind of an old way of cutting in Burma.
They always say that necessity is the mother of invention. And I think that the Burmese people exemplify that better than most people I've ever seen. They have so little, but they figured out so many great ways to overcome those challenges. And that's a great example of one of them.
Yeah, it's really cool how they did that, came up with that. And these are all just other things there's from samurai swords from Japan.
Oh, hey, you got a pineapple? Let's see if you can slice the pineapple in half in the air with your samurai sword.
You could probably do that. That's something they do down there.
I think I'd slice my own finger off.
I've had somebody cut a coconut open with one of them before. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
That's a burnt harp right there. And then you've seen the baskets that come from Sri Lanka and other places where they do the alluvial mining. This is a typical basket from Burma. And they would usually have two of these, and then they have a piece of wood they put across their shoulder, and then they hang them on either side, and that's how they remove the gem back in the day. Back probably in the turn of the century and maybe into the mid 20th century. And then that little ball right there is a soccer ball, which if you've been to Burma, you see those all over the place. They're homemade soccer balls, and they're great. They last a long time, longer than the regular ones.
What are they made out of?
It's just a reed, just like the baskets.
Oh, I see. Yeah. It's a woven ball. Wonderful.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Anyway, that's kind of the view of the actual office. And now we'll go in the lab.
Oh, actually, Ed, if you don't mind, we had two questions related to to this room. One was about the Buddha. Where is it from?
The standing Buddha is from Thailand. This is from Thailand.
So from Thailand. And the conglomerates with the diamond, is it from Brazil, from South Africa?
It's from Brazil.
Brazil. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
This happy Buddha is from Burma.
Okay.
One of my favorites.
And I had Kathy Reshka asking about the crystal skull story. Is that in this room as well?
Oh, that's a great question. So my grandfather on my father's side and my father were both neurosurgeons. And so my dad asked me when I was about 25 years old to find him a quartz skull. And it took me 10 years to find one that he felt represented the proportions properly. Because there's lots of skulls you get out there that have, that are quickly cut. But this was the one that he liked the best. And it shows, the jaw and everything. There was one that I had that had the jaw that articulated, but we were too worried it would break. But there you can see the size of the crystal that it came out of. It's pretty awesome.
That is great.
Awesome. Thank you.
I inherited it when my dad passed away. Thank you for asking about that. All right, so here's
Edward. I'd spend just 2 days wandering around that gallery room. I'd have so much fun in there.
Thank you. It's like going to Bill Larson's house, but at a much lower level of quality. I could say,
but it's the variety of stories that it's really the stories that captivate me all the time. And so it's not so much the quality. It's like, okay, tell me the story behind this and the story behind this. And already, I like to start the show by getting to know the guests. But I think what you've done already is shown us more about your personality just in showing us your gallery than probably I could do just talking to you. So kudos for you, man. That's fantastic. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
So continue, please. Show us the lab.
I love showing people around because you can just see in their eyes as they get more and more information, they become more and more fascinated. And I know a lot of kids have left here that ended up going off and studying geology thus far. No gemologists yet, but I'm working on it.
That's fine. You can keep them as geologists. That's good.
So this is a petrographic microscope. I'm sure everybody there knows what that is. And this is a goniometer. And this is my high-end microscope that's a Zeiss that you can take pictures from both oculars, so you can actually do stereoscopic photos if you wanted to.
Nice.
And then I just noticed that I had this. I'm going to show you in a minute at the end because it's so rare. All right, so we're going to turn it back to me. Let's see here. All right.
There we go.
Everybody see me? Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's good.
Perfect.
Cool. All right. Well, do you want to just keep going down the road here on different specimens, or are there any other questions that somebody might have?
Actually, I want to back up a little bit, and I'd like you to talk to us a little bit about your grandfather. He had an immense influence on you, and we're talking about Edward Güblin here. He had a collection that's now in GIA, and I think it was over 5,000 gemstones in there. Just tell our audience a little bit about your grandfather and maybe a little bit more on the kind of influence he had on you.
Well, he had 5 daughters, and I was the oldest or second grandchild to come into the family. And so my mother and my dad decided that they wanted to name me after him. And because at that time, they didn't have all of their siblings were much younger. He was also chosen to be my godfather. So I had a huge just leg up, I guess, at the beginning of having been named after him. And so he kind of always, I went out of his way with me, I'd have to say, but I also made sure that I spent a lot of time with him. And so he got me started when I was a kid walking on our hikes. He would go on a hike literally 3-4 times a week. And he stayed in great shape. And then he was the one with John Cueva, actually, because they had already published the first photo atlas when I was considering what I was going to do after studying geology. And they both pushed me in their own way to go to GIA. And John was hugely influential because he actually sent me all the material to apply. So it was pretty much a done deal. And so after that, I developed a friendship with John as well,
which
continues to this day. Mm-hmm. And then when I finished my gemology, before I finished my gemology, I had already done several summers in Switzerland. He, unbeknownst to a lot of people, he had a lot of his collection in his home because he had safes that were built into the house. And so at any time he could pull out whatever collection, whether it was Brazil or Tanzania, Sri Lanka. He had everything organized according to the origin. And then he also had them organized separately according to quality, if they were unique in size or a unique color. And in that collection, he collected always 5 pieces, for one to represent each of his daughters, and then 2 on the side, that one for himself and one for my grandmother. So he collected 7 of each that he could. So if you had, say, for example, demantoids, he would have 7 different demantoids, all of different kinds of, shades of green, and, obviously from different localities. Or if it was tourmaline, he would have, every color of tourmaline, the various shades of blue or red or pink. And that's how he collected. And that's the collection GIA ended up with. So, and the picture you just put up is a picture of us together in Mogok on the very first trip that I got to go to Burma. And that was in 1993. I was working for PAL International at the time, and Bill Larson came with us as well, as did George Bossart from the Güblin Lab, and other folks that he had personally invited from Switzerland and the United States. And this is us, actually. We've been writing for basically 15, maybe 20 hours in a Jeep. And we finally got to our compound where we were staying, which was a military compound in Mogok. And we were told not to mingle with locals. And in those days, things had not, just started opening up. And so we decided we're going to sneak out and try and visit with some of my grandfather's friends. So Bill Larson went, and as a ruse, he distracted the guard. And we snuck out underneath the gate, which wasn't a really fortified gate or anything. And we took, my grandfather, of course, had the local attire, and I didn't. So I took my sheet off of my bed. That's why I have that strangely colorful sheet and my jacket. And we shuffled out like a husband and wife. So he was the wife and I was the husband helping him along. And we made it out. And we went to see some friends and we looked at all sorts of gem materials. And, they hadn't seen buyers from the West in decades. So it was pretty awesome because my grandfather was prolific at writing letters to all of his old contacts, no matter what, even if he didn't see them for 10 years, he would still write to them and they would write back. And so he had all these connections there. So that was really exciting. That was my very first trip to Burma. I've been back about 10 times. Since then, I'm very sad about the current situation there.
Yeah, it's horrible.
But I feel like, the people are definitely making their voice heard. And they have had a taste of freedom for a much longer period of time than before. And I think they are not willing to give that up. So let's hope that they are able to come to some kind of healthy and more kind of normal resolution. But and my belief is that you support the local people, you continue to buy from them because with the exception of some of the bigger mining operations, the military is not involved in the artisanal mining that goes on in Burma. So that's a completely different kind of setup.
Well, with that influence, and I know you were also influenced heavily by Henry Hani from the SSEF in Switzerland. Eventually, you went on and you created your own company, RareSource, and you specialize in fine and collectible gems. How did that very kind of research-focused background lead you into this more commercial aspect of your business?
Well, I kind of knew that I always wanted to eventually get into gemology, but I really wanted to do some geological work first. And the only opportunity I ever got was actually working for Bill Larson at Pala and getting to go into the mines and stuff and experience all of that. I then also did some consulting for USAID, which I was a consultant for the GIA, helping them build their museum. And so Brendan Lars knew that would, that having me go over there would be beneficial to the project because they needed to be able to figure out how to educate locals on identifying gem materials, but also helping them with some of the safety issues in mining and some of the legalese that went into mining licenses and so forth. And so I went and stayed there for a while and really got a great experience in working on a large scale, benefiting local people. And then that turned into just having more and more referrals. I did some other small consulting projects. I did one for Kennecott when they were mining Red Beryl, because I knew I was one of the few people that understood the marketplace for Red Beryl, and then how to do sorting and so forth, and also did some writing on the description of the material and so forth. So I got a lot of experience with those different entities. I worked in the Güblin Lab prior to going to Pala, and I of course met Dr. Henney at that time. I met George Bossart, and I started on the very same day together at the Güblin Lab. And Dr. Peretti, who owns GRS, which is a very big gemological laboratory in Asia, was the director of the lab at the time. So I worked under Art, and of course my grandfather would come in weekly and just hang out in the lab with us because I was there, and we would sit down with him and he would bring things from his collection for us to do additional advanced testing on just for fun, so I could have the experience of some of the stones that he had in his collection. So George Bossart was a very, very talented spectroscopist. So in order to identify some of these origins of gems, we have to take very advanced spectral images of these gems. And so we use, today it's much more advanced. We're using things like LIBS and Raman. But in those days, we were just using UV visible near infrared spectrophotometers and trying to separate the O and the E ray and getting really good spectra. And through that, we were able to actually do quite a lot of determination of origin that those baseline numbers were the ones that people still use today. So it's kind of interesting to, that was a great experience for me.
I love it. I mean, the passion that you have, which obviously was heavily influenced by your grandfather, comes out so clearly. But it's more than just passion. You have that research background and your deep knowledge of the market. Absolutely fantastic. So I know you have some things that you want to share with us today. Why don't you kind of take the lead on that and show us what you have?
Let's see. I on our pictures we kind of put them at the end, but maybe we should put them at the beginning. There's if you can you click on the Himalaya mine pictures that are at the end?
I could do anything. I think cool. This is the first one. Yeah,
that's one of the ads and back in this would be in the 1992 or 3, probably something like that. And that was my very first experience to be able to actually, go into the mines. Actually, I take that back. I was in Tanzania and got to do that in Tanzania in 1991, and then I started with Palo right after that. But this was really more hands-on, more, modern type mining with shoring up and, having proper safety procedures and precautions and gear and, oxygen and all those kinds of things. Sure. So I learned a lot, of course, of that, but much more just working with Bill and Josh and the whole crew there at Palo. It was an amazing experience. John McLean, who was the mine foreman. And there's a couple of other pictures there, but I'll show you some mineral specimens.
This picture, I believe that's you on the bottom.
There I am.
In the bed shirt.
Yeah, that's me in the back. And that's Mark.
Sorry.
Yeah. Mark Tremonti is to my left in the kind of green shirt. He's a very famous opal dealer. And then of course some friends and family below us. But yeah, that was an amazing time. And we would have these big parties up at the mine called the Mine, Wine, and Dine parties. And we would cook a big pig overnight. Yanni Malas would come up and cook a big pig overnight. He and I would hang out and have to turn this thing all night long. And then the guests would start arriving around noon the next day, and they'd do mine tours. And then by about 3:00, the pig was all done, and we would have this big barbecue. And of course, Bill would grab a bunch of wine from his cellar, and it was a really fun thing to do. And we did it, 3 or 4 times. But I'll show you some pieces. Here's some pieces from the Himalaya that I'll show you. I'm going to put them on this black tray. And then we're going to just turn this like this and flip. So these 2 pieces are 2 of the very first pieces I ever self-collected from the mine. This is just not a high quality pink, but you can see, and this is an interesting one where you have the pink and the green and kind of a green cap to it, and a typical kind of trigonal shape of the tourmaline crystal. So, and then another beautiful piece is this one here. So 2 crystals, 2 incredible crystals on quartz. See that? And
now that was self-collected as well?
This was not. No.
Okay.
This is one I actually bought recently. I think it was two Tucsons ago I purchased this. If you can read that or not. Yeah, that's the label. Elbai, whatever. Mesa Grande. And then this is another one typical from the Himalaya mine with the Clevelandite on it. And this one I actually took in trade from Bill after having made a nice sale. And instead of commission, I took this in trade.
Awesome.
And everybody knows that Bill loves to trade rather than actually have to come up with a green. So, but that's every mineral dealer, I think. Those guys are so sharp. And then, of course, I always have a cut stone to go with my specimen. So if I have a gem quality crystal, I'll always have a cut stone to go with it from the same area or the same mine. This happens to be from the Himalaya as well.
That's great.
And then this is a very unusual Tourmaline cluster from Burma. So this is from Mo. And you can see
that almost looks Burmese.
It is, yeah. And it has a black cap on the crystals there, or dark green. That's kind of a fun piece. I got myself there. And all right, so next, since we're in the tourmaline, I'm going to show you some cut stones. It's kind of hard to do this without. Here's some bicolors. So these are Brazilian bicolors. So they're big.
Now, are those from the same piece of rough that I'm showing on my screen right now?
That is just another picture of the nicest one that I got out of that whole collection. So that one is just separate. But that's what they look like when you have a good picture of them.
Okay, so that's the rough, and let's cut back to your camera so that we can see the cut pieces. Fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, such vibrant colors on both sides.
Yeah.
Those are beautiful.
The Himalaya mine produced bicolors that actually had one side was a cat's eye and the other side was, pink or green or something like that. It was really cool. So they were bicolor cat's eyes. And we sold a ton of those in Japan. This is a 30 karat indicolite from Brazil. That's quite a special piece. Nice, rich blue color. You can see why it's called indicolite, because it's really indigo blue, not a sapphire blue. Yeah. This is one of my favorite pieces here. Let me see if I can open this. Just 1 second. Just bear with me while I put the phone down for a second.
It's okay. While you do that, I'm going to have Raquel launch the poll for everybody. And Edward, when you see it pop up on your screen, you can actually go ahead and close that window because it's going to be distracting and you're actually not supposed to read the questions.
Got it. I just closed it.
Okay, good. All right. While we're doing that, I'm going to pull up a photo on my screen of Edward. This is going through a sorting table in Burma. And
that's in Mogok.
Okay. You can tell this was because if you didn't know it was Edward, you may not be able to cite.
Yeah, I have a little more gray hair. Just a bit. All right, so here's one of my favorite pieces that I have in the collection.
Oh, wow.
Edward,
and is it?
You went muted it yourself.
Ahead,
slowly. Edward, you are muted. Can you unmute it?
There
you go. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, let me put this on later. I don't know why that happened. Anyway, this is just one of the great pieces. This is from Madagascar. So when you see the crystals, I'm sure many of you have seen and I think it was Tucson before last, there was one that was on display at Westward Look that had the actual whole crystal and then the slices, and they were mounted, and you could move them and look at them individually. And if you put them all together and looked at it from the side, all you got was this dark, ugly, and so much extra light, but it's just basically dark, ugly, yellowish brown rim around it. So to think that it could be that incredibly beautiful on the inside is just like magic.
That is a wonderful piece.
And then we got green tourmaline here, all sorts of different green tourmalines. I love tourmalines, one of my favorites, obviously. All of these are from either Brazil, Maine, Afghanistan, and Congo. All right, next, let's go to. All right, so here's my favorite gem. Spinel is my all-time favorite gemstone. So this is a very large kind of conglomerate of Spinel crystals. You can see some of them are twins. Some of them are just your typical octahedron, but nice, big, huge, massive piece. You don't see many of these. That's kind of unusual.
That's very interesting. It begs to be handled.
Yeah, it does, and it's great because to it. This is what you typically would see from Burma in gem quality materials. So the calcite matrix that it's found in, or the metamorphosed dolomite, and then you get the little octahedral crystal there that you can see pretty well. And then here I have 3 incredible Spinels all from Mogok, from Burma. This is a little red one. This one you definitely would mistake for a ruby because it's that incredibly red.
Yeah.
And then this one,
saturation is out of the world.
That's probably the best one that we have.
That is beautiful.
The 5 carat. And then here's one in a ring. You can see kind of what. So we got the whole thing here. We got rough, cut, and a finished piece of jewelry. It's kind of fun.
My understanding is that the British Crown jewels, there is what they always thought was a ruby was in one of the crowns, and it turns out that it's actually a Burmese Spinel. Is that correct?
Almost everything he said there was correct.
Okay. What's not?
It's a very large Spinel in the Imperial State crown that belongs to Queen Elizabeth, and it was misidentified as a ruby until probably the mid 1700s, and it's called the Black Prince's Ruby. And in fact, it is a Spinel, but the Spinel is most likely not from Burma, but from Badakhshan, which would be Tajikistan or Pamir Mountains. So the material you see from the Pamir Mountains is much more reminiscent of that type of Spinel. Sorry, I didn't mean to say tourmaline. Much more reminiscent of that kind of Spinel. And so in the Royal Crown Jewels of India, of Russia, Catherine the Great has a crown that has a big Spinel in it as well, that they also thought was a ruby. All of these different, royal collections and religious regalia all had these Spinels in them. And I like to tell people that, if it weren't for Spinel, ruby would not be anywhere near as famous as it is today.
That's fascinating. And thanks for the correction. I never knew that. I always assumed it was from Burma. Can you pull out that middle cut stone again so that we can take a look at that color so that we can really kind of understand how it could be mistaken for a ruby?
Let me open the box.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on a second. Sorry. This with one hand, but I think I can do it. There we go. Now you can really get a good idea. Is it in focus?
God, that color is stupendous. Yeah.
So yeah, you can see how that could easily be anybody think that was a ruby. But
now,
really,
Edward, I'm gonna cut over to a photo that I have on my screen, which shows a lot of those pieces. And I think that piece you just held up was the leftmost cut stone, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And so for the viewers at home, you can see that that stone has a much more red tint than the beautiful stone next to it, which is larger, but it is a little bit more on the orange side.
So the what we would call the one on the right would be a flame red.
Okay.
Just like the 5 carat that I have here. And that's a common term for Spinel, particularly if you're talking about this area that the difference between a ruby red or a flame red, those are 2 totally different colors.
Okay, so ruby red would be the other term that would be used to describe Spinel that's more the color of the left stone there.
Yeah.
Okay, so ruby red and flame red. There you go. Hey, who said this wasn't an educational program?
Okay, so I'm going to put these back, and we'll go to ruby since we're in the same genre. We might as well do ruby. And of course, ruby and sapphire and spinel all tend to grow or form in the same types of environments. Doesn't mean that they necessarily form together, but they form in the same types of environments. So typically you'll have a mine that produces mostly sapphire or produces mostly ruby or produces mostly spinel. And of course, it's dependent on the trace elements that are in the, that are leached out of the surrounding rock material that then help to form, spinel, for example, has to form first because it takes it's MgAl2O4, so it takes the magnesium out of the system and then allows for just aluminum and oxygen to be available. And then you have Al2O4, which is aluminum and oxygen, and you add iron or titanium and you get, or chromium, you get ruby, and add iron, titanium, you get sapphire. So that's kind of the way that works. And here you have a ruby. This is my favorite that I have, my favorite ruby crystal. You can see it, how it glows.
Oh, nice.
And that piece is actually from Afghanistan. So this is this is what the Afghani material tends to look like.
What is the kind of the yellowish on matrix there? On top of the matrix there.
Oh, that's a muscovite.
Is that mica?
Yeah, it's a
muscovite. Okay.
Yeah. You can also sometimes find things like clinohumite that would look similar to that.
Okay.
Here's a 5-carat ruby. This is not from Afghanistan or Burma. It's actually from Mozambique. So you have a lot of rubies coming out of Mozambique, and they actually are helping the market to improve for ruby because more people now are being exposed to fine quality ruby because of that deposit, which is enormous. And they do have, stones like this do have fluorescence like the Burmese material, but most of the fluorescence in the material coming from Mozambique isn't quite as strong as that you see from Burma.
And how was the pricing of the Mozambique rubies versus the Burmese rubies?
They're still less. I would say a good gauge would have been about 10% of the price, but today it's more like 50%. So they've increased dramatically because there is really no supply coming out of Burma right now. So
10% less than the Burmese, or 10% of the Burmese?
Of the Burmese. Initially, it was about 10%.
Wow.
But as
so that value has skyrocketed.
Yep. So if you can get into a find like that at the beginning, that's how a lot of these miners make their money, because the long haul is not a profitable scenario usually. So you get in early, buy early, and if you can hold, you hold, because then you take advantage of the increase in pricing. And even though there was a lot of material that came out and it was way below the Burmese price, because there was no Burmese material to compete with it, it then ultimately just kept going up and up and up in price, and keeping up with the Burmese. It's still less, but it as every time a Burmese ruby goes up, so does all the ships rise in that scenario.
Wow. That's a great story, and the quality of it is stupendous. I mean, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. All right, now sapphire. This is a Burmese sapphire. So this is a beautiful emerald cut, 12 karat.
Oh, that color is crazy great.
Yeah, you see that kind of, they call it a royal blue, but this one has velvety royal blues, kind of similar to what you might see in cashmere sapphires as well. And this is an unheated stone. It's quite rare.
That is amazing. I know we both know Federico Barlocher, and he is constantly saying that he thinks the finest Burmese sapphires beat the cashmere ones.
Yeah, I would say that that's possible. I personally love the velvetiness of the sapphires from cashmere. So if you have one that has that velvety blue color, that would be my preference for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let me show you a box of sapphires here. Let me just put this down for a second. Sorry.
You need a third hand.
I do.
I was going to say that close-up shot was great.
Oh, you want to see that again?
Why not? Oh man, that is a great ring. Who designed the ring?
This was done by a New York jeweler, so it's not anybody that you would know that's famous. Just a high quality, does a high quality manufacturing. This is a deco piece here. The Spinel ring is actually a deco piece. So that's it's from the 19. Actually, this may be retro. This might be 1940s. This could be 1940s.
I love that.
All right. Sapphires coming up. Hold on a second. Stay. So here we have a box of sapphires, all different colors. So, a lot of people obviously know sapphire is blue, but pinks and yellows, and then these are stars here. These two are both stars. You can see the stars on them. And purple. That's a natural
color spread is wonderful in there. That bottom one has a tint of red, so it kind of looks a little purple there.
That's purple. By my thumb is purple.
Yeah.
And then here's a blue, and the color change, the pink, another blue. That's from Madagascar, the top left one, and then a yellow, and then the one on the right is a Burma. So there you can see that incredible Burma blue color.
Yeah,
pretty
killer.
awesome. Yeah.
Truly royal blue.
And then let's see.
Can I bring up this image of this star sapphire that I have?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's perfect timing. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about this piece here. This is incredible.
So that's an 18 karat absolute gem star sapphire from Burma. It's definitely the nicest one I've ever seen in my life. It has a flat bottom, which is very unusual for any kind of star stone. Most of the stars that you see are a bit bulgy on the bottom. So of course that adds a lot of weight. And as you know, you're paying by the carat. And so then it adds up in price considerably. So if you have a gem like this, that still shows such a strong star and strong color, is, just absolutely unique kind.
Beautiful piece. And is this still with you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's not. Wonderful. It's not here in the office right now because we got a call for it, but we still own it. Yeah.
Fantastic piece.
And then this is a fun piece. This is a Podragia sapphire. Let's get this over here so we got it in the black background. You can see it better. So Podragia is probably the most rare of all the sapphires. And the reason it's so rare is because it's got a pinkish orange color, and it's very difficult when you're cutting the rough to make those two colors combine perfectly into this color that's called Podragia. So it comes from the name for lotus color, and flowers has this kind of color. Although there are many different colors for lotus flowers, but that's where it derived its name. So that's a 30 karat stone, super rare. And
is this the same one that I have a photo of?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me cut to that just so that we can fill the screen with it for a second.
You can see a little bit more of the pink in the photo than you can in my office, because I've probably got a little bit more predominantly, cooler light shining on it right now. But if you get an incandescent light on it, then the light comes out a lot more, becomes much richer.
Beautiful piece.
Yeah, so that's kind of fun.
How long have you had that?
I've had that for, probably 4 years, something like that. We recut it twice. We're just, kind of playing around with it. But it's a super rare color, and it's one of those a lot of these stones you just hold on to, and because holding on to these is better than putting the money in the stock market.
Definitely better than Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, not right now, but maybe in the future. Who knows? All right, let's see. Let's go to, how about if we jump over to Garnet, which is also one of my favorite gems.
We can do that.
There's a couple of pictures you have there, one of which shows this grossular crystal with the pyrite. together. Just kind of fun. Yeah, there you go.
And we're kind of teasing the audience because we've got a couple killer gemstones there also.
So here's that grouping. Now you can see it in person. You got the picture that Jeff Scoville took, and then you have the real deal right here. So it's, he did a great job of putting those together and making them look beautiful. And by the way, the Star Sapphire picture was taken by Robert Weldon.
Classic photographer for the gem world. Yeah.
So Crosshair Garnet obviously is one of my favorites as well. These are all from Tanzania, but the original find was actually in Tanzania. But then the most famous material that made it big, and it all came from the Tsavo Park. And Campbell Bridges was the one that really kind of got the name, out there. And then Tiffany picked it up, and it just kind of grew from there. But the grossulars from Tanzania tend to be a little bit lighter in color, like these, where you don't have that super dark green saturation. And so when you cut them, gems are super bright. The green from Kenya tends to be more like an emerald green.
Yeah, these are a little bit more of a minty green, I'd call them. I don't know if that's a term that you guys use.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
This is not polished. This is a perfect gem.
God, that is great.
Isn't that amazing?
And I love it that's natural, came out of the ground that way.
Yeah.
A little bit dirtier, but I mean, like you say, not polished. If anything, just rinsed off, cleaned off.
Yeah. And these are known as dodecahedral crystals, which is obviously the way these garnets form. And then here you have the orange variety. The big one is from Tanzania, and the little one is from Nigeria. And the little one's a little gemmier, you can see. And then I have some cut stones to show you too. Let me open this box real quick.
I've got an image up on, there we go. That was the larger and the smaller piece that Edward just shared with us. And a couple cut stones underneath it. One it almost looks like a cabochon, I can't tell.
Yep.
But are those two cut stones from the same area, or are they from different areas, like the rough pieces?
It's funny, the cab is actually from Zambia.
Wow.
And the oval is from Nigeria, just like the crystal right above it, the more gemmy crystal. And then the big crystal is from Tanzania. So all different localities, same color.
Man, that orange color on the cut stone is incredible. Wow, look at this spread.
So these are all garnets. And of course, you can see the pumpkin orange ones are the ones like what we were just looking at, the spessartites. And then we have Malayas. And then we have that's a rhodolite, and rhodolite. So yeah, garnets are kind of the new underappreciated gem, I would say. Spinel was for a long time, and I'd say now it's probably garnet. With the exception of things like Demantoid, which have always been in high demand, but these other colors are really starting to become popular amongst the designers.
Fantastic.
And then speaking of which, if you get to something really esoteric, you have something like this, which is a piece of rough garnet from Mexico near Alamos. And Bill and I invested in a mine there for this material. And that's what it looks like when you get out of the ground. And then if you polish it, it's got a very thin layer of what causes this iridescence, and you can see in the cut stone, you can see some of that reflection. It's almost opal-like.
Yeah,
and it's really cool. The design. I'm sorry that I keep moving like that. Let me just put this down for a second.
Well, as long as Raquel doesn't get motion sickness, we're okay.
So yeah, it's got this iridescent layer on the top of the. You can see we polished it along the crystal facets or faces, and you can kind of see that here. There you go. There you can see that red over there, and the blue, and what's unusual, what's ironic is look at the base. It's just black. It's still garnet, but it doesn't have any kind of life to it at all. So it's just a thin layer. So you have to be a really good cutter not to cut through the layer and into the black and keep that iridescence. So that's kind of fun.
That is fascinating. Are all the specimens similar to that one that you have there?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that's an exceptional one. There are some that have been better, but yeah, that's kind of typical of what you might find, at least from that locality. Now there's another locality in Japan that has much nicer crystals, but they're very small.
Okay. Could you hold that rough piece up again?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Kind of look, the grossular androdite crystals that I showed you earlier from Mali in Africa. They look very similar, but on the inside they have gem quality nodules. So go figure.
Kidding.
All that happens. Yeah, so that's cool. And then another really fun garnet that I have from Brazil is this spessartite, which has the classic hopper crystallization that you can see there. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. Mm-hmm. Good enough, but if I shine a light through the back of it, you can really see the color is just exquisite. Yeah. I call this
it's like a little bit on the red side of a root beer color to my eye.
Yeah. I call this the horse head or yeah, that's kind of fun.
Is it for sale?
No, it's not. It's from Brazil, and I can't remember the name of the mine. I think I've got it written here. Zumba mine. Let's see. Or Zimbo mine.
Or Zumba, and where in Brazil is that?
Enya do Norte in Minas Gerais. So it's in the main
Minas Gerais
gem producing area of Minas Gerais. And then then of course we can't go without showing a Demantoid Garnet. This particular crystal on Matrix is actually from Italy, from Val Malenko, and which Malenko Valley. And this piece was part of my grandfather's collection, and I ended up with that.
That's wonderful.
It's not the most beautiful green. It's kind of a, I don't know, a grayish green. So it's not nearly as pretty as this kind of green, which is what you get from Russia, obviously.
Wow.
That's the electric green you get from the Ural Mountains. But these are almost all heated to this color. So the ones they're more similar, maybe somewhere in between these two colors is what you would get typically when they get out of the ground, and then they heat them to this incredible rich green.
Now, Edward, how do you store these? Do you store the rough and cut in proximity to each other, or are they in completely different areas?
I keep the cut stones all in the safe.
Okay.
And the minerals are a few of the minerals that are very valuable, like the ruby on Matrix, or some of my Spinels on Matrix. I keep in the safe, but the others I just have on display in my showroom.
Fantastic.
So here's another fun thing. Jumping backward to, let's see what we have in this box. Oh yeah, this is going to be fun. So there's a picture that you have there of me in Tanzania, a very early picture from the early 90s, where I'm at Landanai, which is it's like the one that has the picture of the mine on one side, and the other side has one of these crystals. Somebody holding.
Yes. Okay. Here we go.
There we go. So this is a typical mine all around the world. So this is a where you basically have these shafts that you dig down into the through the overburden to get to the area where you have the main mineralization, and you can see that the overburden is very oxidized. So that's why it's so kind of orangey colored ground. Mm-hmm. And then if you look down, basically on this left side, and you look straight down, you can see how it goes from being kind of very fine grained to more coarse grained material. towards the bottom. There you go. And once you get to that, that's the mineralization zone. So they have to climb down there to get to it. They don't have heavy equipment to move the overburden away, so they're just digging down into these crevices and then pulling the material out like that. And so these two crystals on the right are similar to the one that I'm holding right here. Those are also all chrome tourmaline crystals. And the nicest chrome tourmalines in the world come from Tanzania and Burma, believe it or not. There's actually some from Burma. And then this is a beautiful little 3-carat cut stone. So that's part of my rough and cut collection that I keep. That's not for sale. But then I have this stone here. I'll show you in just a second. So this is a 25-carat gem. This is considered extremely large for a chrome tourmaline.
Wow.
I think it's more like a tsavorite kind of color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or dark emerald. And let's see, then.
Edward, we are getting kind of we are a little bit over our time, but
Right.
Why don't you show me what you're about to show me, and then I've got a AGT, and then we'll probably go to the 5 questions and then the Q&A.
You got it. All right. So just quickly, I wanted to show you some of my more fun, unusual things. I like to collect crystals. One of the things that I find important is for people to understand there's 2 different ways basically that people collect. One is they just collect the gem crystals, and the other is they want to collect it in the matrix. So I like it in the matrix because it tells the whole story. So here I have like an emerald matrix from Colombia, and this is also from Peñas Blancas. And it may not be as aesthetic as a just single emerald crystal by itself, but it does tell the whole story of how these form in these rich quartz and calcite veins within the kind of a dark schist, graphitic schist material. So it's kind of cool. But to get to some more unusual ones, I have this. This is one of my favorite pieces of all that I own because it's from Switzerland and it's really a unique quality of pink fluorite. Classic
fluorites, yeah.
So I only collect something that you could possibly cut a gem out of if you wanted to. Not usually that lucky. And of course,
that dark side sneaking through.
Yeah. And then we got rhodochrosite. And I like to, again, show it with rough and cut. So you got the cut stone. So this is a fun way to collect. If you're somebody like me who isn't going to probably spend, $50,000 or $100,000 or, with rhodochrosite, it could be millions. But you can put together something that is incredibly aesthetic with a cut stone. And now you've got something to talk about.
Absolutely. I think there's not a single viewer that's been watching this show that would be surprised at the fact that you like to collect because of the stories attached to it. So yeah, on Matrix makes perfect sense for you.
And then one of the rarest things that I have, which I'm not sure how rare it is anymore because of China producing so much other material, is this piece, which I keep in the dark, and people, it's kind of fun to talk about because it's a realgar. And it's from the Ximeng mine in Hunan. And I haven't seen many of this quality, to be honest with you. It's huge. Let's see how big it is.
Exceptional, Edward.
And what's cool about this is it stayed red because I've had this for going on, 20 years, but I keep it in a dark box in the back of the safe. And this is the first time it's been out in probably 5 years. But if it gets exposed too much to oxygen or fingerprints, then it will turn to orpiment, which is a kind of a yellowish. It basically just starts to disintegrate and turn into orpiment. So it's quite rare because it is so sensitive to light.
The color is exceptional, but even the shape of the crystal is just fascinating to look at.
Yeah, it's cool.
I would say you absolutely, if you haven't done it already, you need a Scoville photo of that and then continue what you're doing. Keep it in the dark, but make a big print of that photograph.
I totally forgot about it when he was here photographing last because it's in the back of the safe. It's a good idea. And I'm going to end with something that isn't so beautiful, but is exceedingly rare. And, most of your folks may not have even heard of it. Even some of your mineral people may not have even heard of it, but it's called painite.
Oh yeah.
And these are, let's see, where are they? There's a painite crystal and matrix right there. Nothing beautiful to look at, but extremely rare. And then from Mogok.
Extremely rare. Yeah.
And here's a cut stone, which is, you can see the metallic luster to it, but it's actually a red stone. And mine weighs 2.66 carats. So at the time that I got it, it was one of like maybe 10 that were known in the world. But today there's quite a few more that have been cut.
Yeah, but that's a pretty good sized cut stone.
Yeah. And it's fun. It's like Ralgar has a metallic luster to it, but when you shine a light behind it, it's red.
Yeah. Edward,
so
talk to us real quickly about this piece that I have on my screen. You got an honorable mention for this?
Yes, that is a 21 karat pink spinel from Sri Lanka. And that I entered it into the AGTA Spectrum Awards for last year, and it got honorable mention. So you have, first, second, third, and this got fourth. And so I'm pretty proud of that because it's quite a unique gem. And in fact, I have it here.
Ooh, let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
Good way to end the interview.
Yeah. And you're ending it with my favorite gem. So that's kind of cool.
Terrific.
So here, let's go over here again, and I will switch to... So here's a box of large spinels, and the one in the middle is the one that won that award. So there you can see it better. Hold it up.
Look at the life in that. Look at that sparkle. That's superb. And who cut that?
This was actually cut originally in Sri Lanka by one of the cutters that I used there. And then I had a cutter friend of mine in New York that specializes in spinel, and he repolished it for me and brought the angles and a little bit in the pavilion. So it didn't have quite as much of a bulge. So now it's almost a perfect.
Oh,
cut.
that's great.
It's almost perfect.
Yeah.
Most spinels have bulges. And the reason is because it does bring out a lot of life. Like this stone has a little bit of a bulge. This is a 15 karat pink this is actually from Tajikistan. So you can see that it's Pamir material. And if you look at the pavilion, it's got a little bit of a bulge, and the keel line's a little bit off center.
Yep.
So anyway, there's my favorite gem
Superb
in the
piece.
world, spinel. And the blues and the grays are the hot stone these days with the designers. So if you can snatch up blues and grays, because the reds and pinks are almost, they're so expensive now, but you can get those and sit on them, and they're going to go up in value. So that's my little tidbit of investment advice.
Investment advice, education, your Mineral Talks Live. Hey, Edward, we're going to go to the 5 questions segment. I think you know how this works. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. There are 2 answers to each question. All of your answers are correct. The viewers have already guessed how you might answer, so we're going to see how the viewers did. Are you ready for this? And they got to be just instantaneous gut reactions.
Okay.
Okay. Question number 1, martini or wine?
Wine.
Wine, without hesitation. Question number 2, field loop or microscope?
Wow. Oh, God. Well, I consider myself more of a field gemologist, so I'm going to go with the loop. It's the tool that you have to have all the time, like a Swiss Army knife.
Okay, speaking of Swiss Army knives, question number 3, the Great Smoky Mountains or the Swiss Alps?
Oh, another tough one. Man, you guys are really making it hard. I live near the Smokies, but I'd have to say the Alps.
The Alps, absolutely. Question number 4, sports car or SUV?
Definitely an SUV.
And the final,
final,
oh yeah, man, much safer too. Final question, and this is the real tough one. GPS or Baylor?
Oh, that's good. They are both excellent schools.
but I'm thrilled that my daughter chose my high school alma mater and go to Baylor. So I'd have to say Baylor.
Right on. Okay. Eloise, do we have the answers from our viewers?
Yes, we do.
Okay, let's see what they did with question number 1. Martini or wine? Edward chose wine. What did our viewers say?
Got the right answer with wine indeed.
Fantastic. Question number 2, field loop or microscope? Edward chose field loop after a little bit of internal struggle. What did our viewers say?
Well, they got it wrong then. They got the microscope instead. I guess they see too many of your nice equipment over there.
I do love microscopes, but I guess if I had to choose, I would choose a loop.
Makes sense. Easier to carry around.
Yep.
Okay, question number 3, Great Smoky Mountains or Swiss Alps? Edward chose Swiss Alps.
Swiss Alps, yes.
Okay, so that was fairly predictable. Question number 4, sports car, SUV. Edward's choice was the SUV.
Correct answer as well here, SUV.
All right.
And the final answer, GPS or Baylor, obviously.
That was not easy, come on. So like people that chose GPS. It's like, what Baylor? What are you talking about?
That was an inside one.
Total insider. So they went with GPS, that was the majority?
Yes, correct.
Okay. 3 out of 5, not bad at all, not bad at all. All right, we're going to go to the Q&A section. I'm sure there are lots of questions. What's the first one for Edward?
Yes, we have few. Edward, thank you for the show. To be honest, it has gone a little different. You started with a history, walking around. It's like, so thanks for that walk around your space and sharing that with us. We have a question from Tony Albini. He's interested to know if you have seen any of the Connecticut tourmalines as catstones.
From Connecticut? I'd have to say I'm totally unaware of that material. Of course, there's Maine tourmaline, very famous, but I'm not familiar. But I'm not. It could definitely be a possibility to have tourmaline from there.
Yeah.
But I've never seen it.
Thanks. We have few in the collections, so I have seen them, but because of the area, we have rough and cut from the area, but yeah, not that many. Is that
I've
like
never
you said,
seen that.
Maine is the state for this side.
Sorry, Raquel, I'm gonna cut in right now for those who are wondering. GPS is Girls Preparatory School there in Tennessee. So that's what GPS is. It's not the global positioning satellites.
I would have picked GPS if it was global positioning satellites.
Talking about red stones, we have two questions. Kathy, she was a volunteer at the Mineral Gallery at the Smithsonian, and she said there was a 4-carat faceted red diamond on display. Any thoughts about locality, where that one could come from?
And which one is it? Which red diamond? At which museum?
At the Smithsonian.
Oh, okay. I'm pretty sure that's the stone from the Kazanjian Foundation that they donated to the Smithsonian, and it's an emerald cut. There's a great story behind that. It was thought to be a garnet, and I think it was bought as a garnet and ended up being identified later as a red diamond. It's a darker red. Most of the reds that came out looking like that, I would say came from Brazil. It's really hard to say. That could be an African stone, but I don't remember what the origin is of that stone. I owned several red diamonds that were from Brazil that were beautiful. They were all purplish red. This one, I believe, is considered a fancy deep red or fancy deep purplish red, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. I see Eloise behind nodding. So I'm sure it seems like she has also seen the stone, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah. It's not for sure known. People think it's from Brazil, I think.
Yeah. Brazil and South Africa South Africa really doesn't have many reds. You're getting more yellows, blues, and colorless. And then you have Borneo, which produces all sorts of different colors. So that's kind of Borneo is the tricky origin, because there's so many different colors that come from there, and you just never know what you're going to be looking at, whether it could be a stone from there. And then of course you have, Australia, which produces these amazing reds. But that particular red of that stone is unlike anything that I've seen from Australia. So it's definitely not Australian. I can definitely rule that out. And I think you can rule out Borneo. So I think it's just probably Brazil is the most likely source for that stone.
Cool. Thank you. And then along those lines, Salman, how close is in coloring the Podragia sapphire to the Malaya garnet, in your opinion?
Oh, wow. That's tricky. There's some Malaya garnets that have come out that have that kind of pinkish orange kind of look to them. It's a completely different look than a sapphire Podragia. That have that look as well. And if you're looking at it when you don't know it's a Spinel, you would say, oh, that looks like an amazing Podragia. So, but I think with the garnet, you can tell the difference. It's not a pleochroic gem. And so even though it may show two colors, the way it shows those two colors is much different than a sapphire. The sapphire divides them more prominently. So as you move the stone and you look at different angles, you'll see the pink, you'll see the orange, and you'll see it, kind of in its own, in their zones where they are. And then when the stone is faceted, it brings those colors together in the face up. If you turn the garnet sideways, you're not going to see those different zones of color because you're dealing with a singly refractive gemstone.
That's a very good tip. Yes, look at the crystallographic system. That will help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. From Evan, what is your favorite color of mineral and stone?
I would say phosphophylite in the mineral.
Wow. And
in the gem, I would pick a top flame Spinel.
Blue-green, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I love the blue-green of the phosphophilites. They're gorgeous.
Yeah. With collections, how come he couldn't get? So I'm not sure I understand these questions. Maybe Eloise, with collection like he has, how come you couldn't get one of the students into gemology?
Geology is better.
I see.
I think what it is you have younger people are drawn very quickly to mineral specimens because you can look at them, you can handle them. There's this absolute awe of the fact that this grew in the ground and hasn't been polished to what it is. And so I think there's an innate just within everybody. And then it takes a different kind of angle to get into the gem world of it, because now you're going into something that's completely transformed into something else. And if you're curious about that and you like the idea of trying to start by not being able to identify where something comes from or how it grew or what its crystal is, then there's like an additional layer of mystery. And that's what I love about it. And you have to study the inclusions, you have to study the optics, you have to study the optical properties, the chemical properties. And so it's a whole different level. And it's a level that someone can achieve with actually pretty rudimentary gemological equipment if you train yourself. And so I think that's what's fun about it. It's going in a different direction, but it's still a very it's a very strong science today. It's considered, one of the great sciences, and along with geology. And there's both of them have many, many areas that could use a lot of research and additional explanation. Geology, of course, is more the macrocosm, and gemology is a very specific microcosm of that world. But I just think it's just they have to get exposed more to the gems, maybe go and do some gemology courses, and as soon as they do that, anybody that goes to GIA comes back saying they had the greatest experience ever. Or if you take the FGA courses online, they'll say they learned more with FGA than they ever learned in geology. So there's a lot to be said for that.
Thank you. We have one last question, and is do you have any dravitite? I'm not so sure it's dravite. And shoal in your rough and cut? Yes.
I have shoal, a lot of black shoal. And when you cut it, it looks like a black diamond kind of, but it's a little bit more brittle. So the preferred material to go with in black is black spinel, actually, because it has a high, it's very reflective. It has a high RI. And so that's typically what gets cut. You don't typically see a lot of black shoal cut or dravite because it's kind of a brownish color or brownish yellowish color. But I've had some that were beautiful where there's a pronounced yellow and a pronounced orangey brown, and they're very transparent, and they were marketed in the mid-90s as Savannah Tourmaline, and they came from East Africa, and they're gorgeous, but I don't have any more of that. I actually had one in a ring that I wore for a long time. Good question.
Thank you for staying, and I mean it's already 2:35, so I don't know how we make it.
It got us because he was showing us some emeralds for you and some garnets for us. So we cannot stop. We just can't stop. We cannot make them stop. It's not possible. We have to continue. So that's how you got us on this one. Well done, guys. Well done.
Yes. Very clever, Edward. I think we need to brand ourselves as the greatest 90-minute, 1-hour show on air.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I hope it was entertaining, and I hope it inspired some people out there. And I'm always available for questions. If people send you more questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Wonderful. Edward, thank you so much for coming on the show. For all of you viewers out there, thank you for hanging out with us. We always have too much fun, so I think we'll never do a 1-hour show. But tune in tomorrow to Blue Cap Productions YouTube channel, and what you're going to see is our release of episode 42. That was our interview with NASA scientist Dr. Elizabeth Rampey, and she is on the Curiosity Mars rover. So we got to talk about Mars, and that was absolutely fascinating. I love that program. That was aired back at the beginning of April 7th, and that will be live tomorrow. As for next week, tune back in. We're going to have the executive director of the Maine Mineral and Gem Museum and the curator there. So it's Barbara Barrett and Dr. Carl Francis on our show. That will be Wednesday, May 5th, 1 week from today, same time. And again, a big mahalo to Edward for coming on our show, and for all of you for tuning in. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you 1 week from today. Thank you. Take care.